Hello, everyone. So we are finally almost halfway through week 4 of the Serverless camp. And this is the last week of actual teaching. So the students are just learning a little bit more about front end this week, and they're going to be practicing their skills. And then over the course of weeks 5 to 8, they're actually going to start working on their final projects. So I just wanted to do a quick video in which we can talk a little bit about what those expectations are for the final project, why they're doing it, what you as a mentor can expect, or if you're a student, what your expectations and guidelines should be, and how to go about not only starting it, but completing it, feeling like you were able to complete it successfully. And then we'll also get a chance to talk a little bit about the Serverless Days conference and how that ties into everything. So I'll start with talking a little bit about the purpose. So we want to make sure that out of this camp, as a student, you're able to get a chance to not only learn all of these really important technical skills, learn about how serverless works and all those things, how APIs work, but also get a chance to practice those skills on your own and use them to, find problems that matter to you and solve them. So that's basically what we're going to be focusing on. For the next 4 weeks, you're going to think about a problem that matters to you. It can be something that is super serious, important. I know some students really care about medicine and our environment, and all sorts of things, weather. And there's some people that want to, make something that's really fun and quirky. People that like playing around with cat pictures, or people that like looking at the Spotify API. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the skills that you have learned, and no one of them is better than the other. The main goal at the end of the day is just to feel comfortable and confident with everything that you've learned in this program. So go in whichever direction you feel works best for you. And then the part that is going to be a little bit of like a bonus on top is for the students who are able to get a good idea of what type of project they want to make by weeks 4 and 5. You'll actually get a chance to submit your blog or as a paper for the Serverless Day Student Edition conference, and 6 students are going to be chosen this time around to present their projects at this conference. So it's a really good opportunity. There's going to be a lot of eyes on you during this conference, and not in a scary way, but in kind of like a really great opportunity way. There's going to be people from the tech industry that are looking at your project. So if you're looking for a job, it's a really great place to get started and start networking with people outside of the camp. If you're not looking for a job because you're still learning and you're still going at your own pace, it's a great opportunity to just find friends who are also learning. There's going to be other students that are watching who are going to be learning from you. It's a good place to find more mentors outside of the people that you've worked with in the camp. So it really is a great place to get started. If you haven't already, I really recommend registering for the camp itself. Once you've registered, you'll receive an email that just kind of gives you a, hey, congrats on, your confirmation for signing up. And then eventually sometime this week, you'll also receive an invite to the event itself. Calendar invite, and we really recommend sharing it with your friends and family and everyone that you know, your colleagues if you're working, your peers if you're in school, everything, so that if you do get a chance to present at this conference, you can show off all of the work that you've done. For the mentors, you can also show off the work that your students have done, and all of the effort that you've put into the last 4 weeks, and what kind of an awesome final project that your students end up making. So there's that. The conference itself is on August 15th, and it's going to be held from 10 a.m. Pacific to, I believe, 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific. I'll send more details about this in Slack. And then there's a little bit more information about the conference and the speakers that are going to be attending and giving little talks throughout the course of it. There's going to be a really cool workshop that's going to be held by Ganning and Emily. It's super cool. The website itself is just really fun. If you click on it, it makes a sound. So go ahead and check that website out. Now I'm going to go into more details regarding the process of how the students are going to be building their own projects and how the mentors can best support their students in this time in weeks 5 to 8 rather. So I'm gonna hop on over here to the main README in Intro to Serverless, in the Intro to Serverless repo. And if you scroll down to week 5 and it gives you kind of like an idea, an overview. So in week 5, they're going to be working a lot on like brainstorming and proposals. In week 6, they're going to be developing their MVP. Week 7, they're going to be completing their MVP, their minimum viable product. And then week 8, they're going to be just finalizing things, debugging, adding features, all of the above, so that on August 15th, they are ready to go, ready to present their project. I'll talk about the presentations and what those are towards the end of it, but I just want to get a little bit into what the curriculum itself looks like on the student side. So if you're a mentor, you know what they're working on. So as you can see, week 5 is 7 steps. All of the other weeks after week 5 are just you continuing to work on your own project. Week 5 is the main part that's actually structured for the students. So if we go in here, we'll look at the final project, step 1. Okay, great. So laying out the groundwork. The first thing that you want to do is plan out your project. Figure out what you're doing, why you're doing it, why is it important to you. And once you know all of that, what are the technologies that you need to use to make all of this possible? So it's going to tell you to go into this tech.md file that's going to help you figure out how your project works. Let's figure out what the tech.md file looks like. It's in the project folder, tech.md. So it asks you to write out the name of the Azure services that you want to use, APIs that you're interested in, any additional packages or libraries or databases that you want to make use of in your project, as well as any front-end languages that you'll be doing. So as you can see, a lot of this is just following directly out of the curriculum that you've been working on. And so mentors, once the students have done this, if you want to like go ahead and give it a look, give them some feedback, give them ideas of external resources and tools that they might not have ever heard about. We might not have taught them in the course, but you think they're going to be really valuable, that might make their project even more efficient or easier to work on. So this is the time for your expertise to really just pull through and help them learn more than what they already have in this program. And then let's go back to step 1. So they're going to be planning it all out. There's going to be preparing a checklist of all of the things that they need, researching APIs. I really recommend, or we really recommend, that they branch out of the APIs that they've used in the first 4 weeks and try to find more. There's like so many out there. If you're a mentor, you already know this. There's a lot of different APIs that they can use. So really branch out, see what you can make use of for your own project. Sometimes researching different tools, technical tools, can also help you come up with ideas. If you're not sure where to start, what problem to solve, spend some time looking at what type of solutions already exist that you could, master and use in your own projects. Here's some like ideas that have already been laid out. Here are some projects that other students have worked on in the past. So you can kind of do a little bit of research there. So let's go over to step 2 in week 5. I'll just open all of these up. Great. Step 2, they're going to be laying out more of their groundwork. They're going to be creating a flowchart at this point. So in the previous stage, they just wrote their ideas down in like a notes markdown file. Now they're going to put together a flowchart that shows more of how all of these different technologies work together. And like if you're using an API, is it a GET request? Is it a POST request? You've done a lot of this stuff. Now you just need to create a visual. This step is also going to explain to you why you want to work on programming flowcharts, like why that's important, how that helps you, and how you're going to go about converting that initial checklist into a flowchart. Here's a couple of really cool examples. This is Bunny Image from Emily's project that you tried creating. I believe it was in week 3. So you can kind of see what was going on in her mind when she was first developing this project as well. super colorful, be creative, go all out on this for the students. And if you're a mentor, then again, this is a great place for you to give them your advice and your expertise. Look at how the students are trying to make sense of the technologies. At the end of the day, they've only worked on these on the first 4 weeks for like a month up until now. So they might not have a completely, perfect idea of how these different technologies work well together. So great place for you to tell them like, hey, you wrote this in your flowchart, but that's not exactly how this works. Let's take a moment to understand what's going on behind the scenes before they actually start developing with those technologies. And then we're going to move on to step 3 of their final project, which is reviewing that flowchart, which we kind of just talked about. So we're going to ask, if they're part of the camp, then they need to ask their mentors, they need to ask you to look at the flowchart and basically just you look at it from a pair of fresh eyes and try to explain it back to them. And that's their way of kind of making it click of, okay, cool. So this is what I meant to communicate to this person, but this is what they ended up getting. So if those two match, that's great. But if you as a mentor are getting something else out of the flowchart that they created, then there might be some lack of understanding in how these technologies work well together. So again, just kind of helping them get a better hold of how to make the best use of the technologies that they're using, or even finding ones that work better for whatever they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, just reviewing the flowchart itself. And here's some guidelines on what they need to be reviewing. So whenever you are sitting down and talking to them, it would be really good to just pull up the step itself in front of you so that they can ask these questions to themselves, to you, and you can work together on improving that. And then step 4 is the timeline. So this is the part where they need to really start, they have their flow chart, they know what the technologies are, what they are, they've done their research, what problem they're solving, all of the, prep work is done. Now they need to figure out what the timeline is going to look like. They don't want to complete the entire project in one day. That's going to be super overwhelming. They also don't want to leave super important features to the last week. So trying to figure out what's a good place to start, what's a good way to organize their deadlines so that they're able to complete, a large portion of like the foundation of their project within the first 2 weeks, so that even if they run across any problems during during the last 2 weeks, they can still have a presentable project by the end of by the deadline, basically. So all of your project management expertise would be really valuable over here. Get a chance to talk to them, how to even decide what a task is, is it something as small as doing or as vague as doing research on XYZ, or when you're writing out your tasks and your deadlines, do you want to be super detailed about what you're trying to accomplish, all those things. Breaking things down, putting deadlines in, getting feedback. So they're going to need feedback from you, and then converting these tasks into issues. So this is a really important part. The students themselves, as a student, you don't have experience with creating issues if you've never worked on any technical project before using GitHub, and that's completely okay. From the mentor's perspective, they most likely have used issues, and if they haven't, they've used some sort of other project management tool that exists. So they know how to, create issues or tasks and write them down in a way that, 3 weeks from now, you look at that task and you know exactly what you meant and exactly what you have to do. The last thing you want is to write down a bunch of deadlines and tasks and then look at it 3 weeks from now and be like, what was I thinking? I don't remember what I meant by this phrase or whatever, So yeah, all of these things, how to create a new issue. So there's some instructions on how to do that on GitHub over here. But if you're not sure, you can Google it. It's a very common question that's asked online. There's a lot of Stack Overflows and a lot of other blogs that explain how to do it. We can also cover that if you want to, and how to format your issue. So there is a format markdown that's been provided to you as a student. So you can use this format, copy it, paste it, And if not, you can update your own format based off of your mentor's guidance. Cool. And then I want to take a break at this point and just cover a couple of things that I haven't already mentioned. One of them is the timing and how much time goes into these processes. So up until the first 4 weeks of the camp, the students have been asked to schedule meetings with mentors. So that is usually between 1 to 3 hours, depending on how fast the students were going, how much help they needed, how much time you were spending working on pair programming assignments versus just getting to know each other and you're learning about your experiences. For weeks 5 to 8, we are now at a stage where we're hoping that the students have had some experience with, working with a mentor and talking to someone who's an expert in tech. Now it's sort of up to you as a student, as well as you as a mentor, to decide what is the best way to shape your own relationship as, as a mentee and a mentor. So if you work best by working asynchronously and doing all of the conversations over Slack, and that's what you want to do, you are not required to meet at all over the next 5 to 8 weeks. It's not the most recommended form, but if that's how you think you work best, then that's okay. If you feel like you need a lot of hands-on guidance as a student, or if you as a mentor feel like your student requires a lot of hands-on guidance and you have the time to commit, to provide that, and you want to meet up multiple times in a week or have a 5-hour work session, that is also completely up to you to decide. If you as a student feel like you need a lot of extra help and support, but your mentor doesn't have the time, it is really important for you to communicate with your mentor to make sure that, they're not having to go out of their way to cancel personal plans or work schedules just to meet you. So figure out what you need, but also be very careful about how much time and what questions you're asking the mentors and those types of things. I will also say, second point is that the Bit Project team is still here. So any technical questions or related to your project itself, whether it's related to how to code, what to do, what type of project to make, which APIs to use, all of the questions above, the Bit Project team is here to answer it. The Piazza is going to continue to stay open for the next 4 weeks, so you can feel free to do that. If you feel like you need one-on-one support from our team, I am here, Emily's here, Daniel's here, Anita's here for your experience, and just our entire team is here for you. So if you realize you're at a place where your mentor is not able to commit 7 hours a week, which is insane, but you do need that kind of time, that's what we're here for. So please reach out to us. Please don't ask your mentors to go out of their way to, give extra time. So try to figure out how you want to organize your time, basically. But at the same time, if your mentor is willing to provide that type of, those meeting schedules and everything, then go for it. It's just about how both of you communicate. So yeah, that was a very long-winded way of saying, figure out for the students, figure out what you need to do, figure out who is there to best provide you with those answers. But you don't have to rely on one person for everything. Cool. And then once you figure out your timeline and once you've converted all of these tasks into issues, or if you figured out a different project management style, that's okay too. The next step is to start coding. Now, this is the real fun part, and this is also sometimes the most frustrating part because now there's no step-by-step procedure. It's all just completely up to you to figure out, what's my first step? How do I do it? How much time do I expect it to take? How much time does it actually end up taking? Because we know that's not always aligned, and that's totally okay. So try to follow your schedule as much as possible. Remember that your schedule is tentative. It doesn't have to be followed exactly. And if you as a student feel like, I created the schedule in a very idealistic way in the beginning, but now I'm starting to realize that most of my tasks are taking a lot longer than I was expecting, then it's probably a good idea to go into that schedule as early as possible and start rewiring things so that you don't end up, completing 3 tasks in 3 weeks and then having 20 tasks left over for the last week. So yeah, your schedule is yours to, modify, to update, to erase, to add to, whatever you want to do to it. There's some guidance on how to start your first components. You can look at this, but once you start developing, figure out what time management skills work best for you. Talk to your mentor about, what works for them, what they've seen other people do. If you're the type of person that likes working, 8 hours a day straight and then not looking at your code for another 5 hours, or if you're the type of person that prefers to work for, 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break and then 25 minutes. So figure out what works best for you and then try to follow that for yourself. And ask your mentor. They know how different people work. They know how their colleagues work, and they can help you as well. They know how you work because they've seen you up until this point. So yeah, step 5 is just to start coding. Make sure to constantly keep committing your code. Now the bot is not going to be checking like whether your commits are right or wrong, right? There's no way for us to check if your code is right. So that's completely up to you. The reason we want you to constantly keep committing is so that if you have code working right now and then it ends up breaking tomorrow morning, you always have that, last working version available for you to go back to at any point. The last thing you want is to, see your code is broken and the last time you committed was like 5 days ago, and now you have no idea where things went wrong and you have to do 5 days worth of work all over again. So that is step 5. Do we have a step 6? We do. The last step is documentation. So for every component that you create, and this is how we recommend that you do it. For every component that you create, you want to start documenting what you've done as quickly as possible. Documentation is super important for multiple reasons. One of them is for you to kind of look back at what you've worked on, just write down all of your ideas, all of your thoughts, any problems that you came across. And that way it can also help you improve on ideas that you have for the future. And the second most important thing is that once your final project is complete, you're going to get a chance to show this off to other people. People are not going to go into your GitHub and start reading your code line by line. But if you have a really great piece of documentation, a blog that explains this is how, the process of how you went about creating this really cool project, people are going to take notice of that and they're going to, maybe offer you jobs. It's a great way for you to look back at your project 5 years from now so that you can talk about it in an interview. Multiple reasons. Great question to ask, your own mentors. Why is it important for me to sit down and reflect on the work that I've done and write about it? So we recommend doing it every time you make a working component that you're going to keep. You don't want to do it after every commit, just in case you end up reverting your changes, in case you decide to change the direction of your project. But if you've, created a button on your website and you're this button is crucial to my website, then you might want to write about how you wrote that, how you developed it. So all of those things. There are some examples of how other students have written their blogs in the past, how to organize it, how to format it, all of it. It's going to be written in Markdown format. So if you don't have experience with Markdown, super easy. Just do a quick Google search on how to write in Markdown, and then you should be good to go. Mentors, if you have the time to just skim through their documentation as they're developing their project, that would be really helpful for them. Writing about technology can be really hard. You already probably know this. So the students can get your help on this. They can learn how to communicate things better. Maybe they know how to code to the point that their project is working, but they might not understand exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And when they're writing that in their documentation, you notice it. And that's a great place for you as a mentor to step in and be like, okay, cool, you did this, it's working, that's great. But let's, revise like what's going on actually. And then that's going to help them in their final presentations as well. And just in life in general. So yeah, quick tips, documentation, best practices, all of these things. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I believe that is I thought that was the last step. That is not the last step. There's a step 7, which is continuing your work, obviously. Develop your first component, document it, and then continue the rest of your project to look at your schedule, change your schedule dates if you have to, and just keep developing your projects. Anytime you have a bug, you can Google it. That's always the first step, is to Google it, especially when it's your own project. If that's not working and you're really stuck, ask on Piazza, reach out to an instructor on Slack, reach out to me, Emily, Daniel, we're all here for you. If that doesn't work, reach out to your mentor. And if we're really stuck, then we're all going to have like a big conversation to figure out what's going on. So yes. Oh, I also want to mention one more thing about the mentorship aspect to it, especially when it comes to the final project. For the students, your mentors are not there to be your, dictionary of all the answers in the world. They are there to teach you how to be good software developers, to be good web developers, to be just good programmers. And that doesn't mean that they'll have the answer to all of your problems. They most probably don't have the answers. That's very normal. They're not Google. That's okay. But they know how to think like a developer, and they know how to help you figure out how to solve those problems. They know what resources that you should be using. They have friends who might have more experience in certain problems that you're having that they can help you connect with. So don't expect them to know how to, debug your code by itself. You might send them the code and they might just be like, I don't know how to do that. And that's expected. But they'll teach you how to Google search, how to read through documentation that you've never seen before. There's a lot of really bad documentation out there. So if you happen to come across something like that and you don't know how to navigate it, they can help you. So yeah, I hope I've covered everything in terms of actually developing the project itself. And then time expectations. So I think I already covered this for the mentor side. It can be 0 hours a meeting a week. It can be 10 hours a meeting a week. It can be as much as the mentor is willing and able to commit. And the students should be working around that. And also reaching out to their other resources, because as a student, you have access to a lot of people and a lot of resources around you at this point. If it's a simple, how does Azure work, or how does this API work, really recommend reaching out to your instructors first. If it's something more complicated, like I don't know what tool to use, or, I need your recommendation as an expert in this field, that's a great place to go to your mentors. And then for the students, time expectations completely vary based off of the projects that you make. So at this point, I'm not going to guarantee you it's going to take 5 to 8 hours a week, and I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to take 15 to 20 hours a week. That is up to you to decide. If you want to make a super simple project that requires 2 hours and it's done, that is great. You can do that. No one is stopping you. If you have the time and you want to put in the time to create something super complicated that uses a lot of external tools and resources that we haven't ever faced in this curriculum, but you really want to challenge yourself and put yourself out there, that is also completely up to you. And you should do that, because this is the best place for you to learn and, make mistakes, but learn how to get over them, find bugs and learn how to fix them, all of the above. So yeah, time expectations up to you. Really recommend, if you think something is going to take X hours a week, personally, I've been told to multiply it by 3, Other developers have a different factor that they multiply it by. So talk to your mentors, see how they determine how much time their tasks end up taking. But yeah, time is going to be something that is a skill that you also have to develop in this program for yourself. And it's okay if you get it wrong. If you realize that you completely underestimated the time it was taking and you need to reevaluate that later, totally okay. No one's going to judge you or stop you or anything like that. The last thing that we need to talk about is the types of projects. So in terms of the Serverless Days conference itself, there are 3 different categories that we spoke about that are going to be important for your projects. So that first category is, I believe, right off the top of my head, and I will send more information about this in the Slack. But one of the categories is like the regular health and like taking care of other people, environment, all those nature, those types of things. I believe the second category is education. So anything around like helping social change and helping other people, that is a second category. And the third category is like arts, entertainment, quirky projects, things that make you show off your creativity. Don't quote me on these 3. It's kind of vague, but I'll send a message regarding that in Slack and Discord and all of the above. So yeah, when you're trying to come up with your project ideas, try to see if it fits into any of those 3 categories for it to be presented at the Serverless Days conference. We've made them pretty vague, so most project ideas will fall into one of those 3. And if it doesn't, that's okay, but we cannot guarantee that you'll get a chance to present at the conference, unless it's like a mind-blowing idea. Again, there are only 6 students that will get a chance to actually participate in the conference itself. However, all of the students who complete their projects will still get a chance to present it on live stream. However, it'll be in a separate event, not part of the Serverless Days conference. So just wanted to clarify that it'll still be associated with the camp, it'll still be marketed, and it'll still be part of Bit project and your learning experience. You will still get a chance to learn how to do public speaking, practice it with us. Everything that the students who are going to be presenting at the conference, the experience is going to be the same. It's just you won't have as many eyes on you. So make sure when you're submitting your CFP, I believe it's sometime in week 5 or earlier, make sure that it's something that's really cool, but also something that's obtainable. If you end up submitting a CFP that is really cool, but your project is not completed and your talk is not ready in time, you will not get a chance to present it either. So trade-offs. Don't try to be super ambitious in the beginning if you won't be able to complete that project. We would much rather you come up with something that's super simple, but something that's achievable for you. And that will still have a higher chance of getting accepted into the conference itself. So yeah, I believe I've covered all of the questions that I've received from students and mentors. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me or through the camp students or mentors or lounge channel, whichever one works best for you. And yeah, good luck if you're the students. We're really excited to see what projects you end up making. We're really excited to help you as well. Figure out how to solve your problems, work together, debug together, everything. And then if you're a mentor, these are the last 4 weeks. This is where the students are going to be absorbing most of the information from you, learning more about the tech industry than they ever have before. So we're really grateful that you're here to help us and help the students. And yeah, that's it. I'm just going to leave it there for now. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Bye.